Well, we now move on to invite our keynote speaker, and we're all longing to hear what he's going to be saying for us this evening. I think you start off, ladies first. You begin.
Thank you, Faisal. So the next person we would like to call upon stage to deliver the keynote address. Now, he has had 35 years in Sri Lanka, pioneering sports, tourism, and hotel owner.
Right. But what is very interesting is that he's the co-producer of a movie titled Machan. And if you only want to know what this movie is all about, it's a story, it's in fact revolves on a true story of the Sri Lankan handball team which went to Germany in 2004 and they totally disappeared. Right, so let's now invite that personality to deliver the keynote address. He is the founder and CEO of the Asian German Sports Exchange Program, and he is none other than Dr. Dietmar Doering. Everybody, put your hands together for a round of applause.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here, and I welcome all dignitaries, the Honorable Minister, and I also want to welcome the chairman and the family of the Charit company organization. I think I saw the profile, and I think it's more than a word to mention your great success in your company. So I want to first of all say a few words of felicitation to the organizing committee of this event here today. That is Dr. Tarindo, of course, and Dr. Dexter. I think you have given a fantastic and a very professional frame here, and I'm 100% sure that everyone who is here will enjoy this evening. Compliments also to Mr. Channa and his very famous cultural group. Channa's dancing group is popular even in Europe. I have heard about them even in Europe. So we have seen an impressive introduction song. And at the end of the song, you saw $100 notes flying into the room. My topic is related to $100 notes. But not only that, I want to give you a little insight in what is money and money can do. Now, I have to coordinate a little bit with the gentleman who is seated over there. You may have my PowerPoint presentation. So then I would kindly ask you to on it now and show the first picture. So what I'm talking about today is about money, and try to give you a little background information about from where the money comes. Every one of us here, we have some form of funds in our pockets, but it's very interesting to see a little bit behind the curtain where the money comes from. In Sri Lanka it is clear, but I will refer a little bit to our affiliation to the United States of America. Are we okay with the PowerPoint presentation? You just tell me. You can see the Federal Reserve Bank of America. Here we are. Good. Isn't that a beautiful building? Are there some bankers here in the auditorium? Anyone who is affiliated to the central bank? No? All right. So when it comes to money and it comes to Sri Lanka, all that what we have in our pockets, the financial assets, the rupees, this is printed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka is governed by the Sri Lankan government. That is a clear fact. Now, in America, it's a bit different. In America, you have the US Federal Reserve Bank. The US Federal Reserve Bank is not under the directly under the administration of the US government. In fact, the US Federal Reserve Bank is an independent body, and it is a consortium of private banks. So now if we have a similar thing here in Sri Lanka, for example, you imagine There will be having the Sampat Bank, we say the Commercial Bank, and we say the Hatton National Bank. These are private banks. They form a consortium and they sell the rupees to the government. Nothing different is done in America with the United States Federal Reserve Bank. And how that all happened, I will tell you later. And when I do like this, you can come to the next picture. A little introduction how money works. Now I have prepared a small sketch for you, and you can say the next one. So you can see there are two pictures. There is a gentleman, we'll say a tourist. He comes and he visits a hotel. Actually, he wants to see all the rooms in the hotels because he has sufficient number of tourists who want to occupy the rooms. Now this gentleman comes, and then he's meeting the manager of the hotel, and he talks to the manager and says, I want to see all your 50 rooms. Then the manager says, that's quite okay, but you have to put a deposit. You have to give me at least 100 US, put me 100 US dollars as a deposit. So this gentleman gives him 100 US dollars as a deposit. Now the hotel owner has $100 in his hands, and he's giving his 50 keys to a room boy, and he's going with that guest checking all the rooms. The hotel owner knows that it will take at least 2 hours to see all the rooms. In the meantime, the hotel owner, he has an open bill. He has to settle an open bill with the butcher. He had bought some sausages the previous evening, he didn't settle it. So he takes the 100 US dollars and goes to the butcher quickly and pays the 100 US dollars, the open bill, to the butcher. And even the butcher, he also has to pay some money. His wife has gone to the hairdresser the previous evening and she did not pay. So the butcher takes the 100 US dollars and he settles the bill with the hairdresser. As you can see, the butcher goes to the hairdresser and then the butcher pays the $100. All the same $100 going. And the next? So yeah, and the hairdresser, he has an affair with a lady, with a young lady, and that lady charged some money from the hairdresser, and he had to settle the lady, and the lady is getting the $100, same $100. So it goes further. Now the lady, and the next. The lady has booked the room in the same hotel. So the lady has also open bill to the hotel, and the lady comes to the hotel and quickly pays the 100 to the same hotel owner. Now the $100 is again back at the hotel owner's pockets. In the meantime, the guest who had inspected the 50 rooms, he had finished the inspection, and he's not happy with the rooms, and he says, no, I can't book your rooms, give me my money back. And the hotel owner returns the 100 US dollars. Now what happened? So you see, this simple principle is the principle how all the banks are working worldwide, same principle. In fact, the $100 has changed the hands 5 times. $500 had been paid, but in fact nothing has been handed over. It's a bit complicated, no? But that is the way how banks are working. And we come now to the next one. Now we come to the big chart. When it comes to the US Federal Reserve Bank, yeah, one more tick. Yeah. So as I said, for you to note, the Federal Reserve Bank is a central bank, and as any other central bank authorized to print money. The only thing, it is a private consortium. Interestingly, it is owned by a consortium of private US commercial banks, and their main principal shareholders are, and these are very important names, which we'll again repeat later on, it is the Rothschild family. The Rothschild family, and it is Jacob Rothschild who's chairing the central bank of the Federal Reserve Bank. Goldman Sachs is there, Moses Saif Bank, and there will be some others. A question in the auditorium: who's the richest person in the world according to the Forbes lists? Anyone? At this moment, the recent publication says the richest man in the world is Jeff Bezos, who is the major shareholder of Amazon. No? Long time, there were some other multi-billionaires. And these lists of billionaires, the richest people in the world, they are publicized in the Forbes magazine. The Forbes magazine is owned by Rothschilds, by the Rothschild family. And in fact, the Rothschild family is not mentioned in the Forbes Richest, but in fact, they are the richest people by far. Some people say that they have total assets in cash in the range of approximately 500 trillion US dollars. So they have more, the family, than all the others. So this is a little background to the who is the owner of the Federal Reserve Bank. We can come to the next chart. Yeah, how it all started. There was in 1910 a group of international bankers. They lived in America, and they had a secret meeting in New Jersey. Those who you see on the pictures here, they were D. Rockefeller, the Rockefeller dynasty, I think everyone knows. And it was Mr. Andrew, Assistant Treasury Secretary, Mr. Van der Lip, the President, National City Bank, Mr. Davison, Paul Warburg, and some other top industrialists. They have gone secretly on a hunting trip. It was declared that they go on a hunting trip, and none of these super rich and influential people have taken any of their staff. No bodyguards, no secretaries. They went totally in privacy. So the summary, the few of the most powerful and richest men went on this secret trip to set ground for the foundation of the US Federal Reserve Bank. It was a night of the 22nd of November, and they were boarding a private rail car, and they went to Hoboken, New Jersey. And the next, they have founded the US Federal Reserve Bank, and I'm coming a little later to the point that they cannot do that without getting the sanction of the US president. The bankers came without any entourage, no secretary, servants, no guards. In reality, they were going to draft a reform of the nation's banking industry in complete secrecy, which they later presented to a confident US presidential candidate who, with their financial support, became the president and signed this bill into law. The interesting part of that is this bill was signed into law about 2 weeks before the Christmas holidays. So the Senate has to approve this draft bill, and 2 weeks before Christmas in America, those days, they had not this mobility like us. 2 weeks before Christmas, merely only a few senators were present when the bill was presented. And the next. So here's an interesting site. That is Nathan Rothschild. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. Nathan Rothschild. The Rothschild family has about 3 different, we'll say, lines. There is a German line, there is a British, and the French. The French line also has an interesting part in that to play. As you may recall the history, there was Napoleon who was fighting a war with the British, and there was a big battle at Waterloo. And as you know, Napoleon has lost the war by losing the battle in Waterloo. At these days, the Rothschild family was in control of the mail, the post and mail. Those days they were riding with the horses and delivered the mail. What happened on that particular day? The mail was sent to London, and the London Stock Exchange was informed that Napoleon has won the war. So it was fake news. Those days even they had fake news. And with this fake news, an earthquake resulted in this London Stock Exchange. Because Napoleon has won the war, that means the Brits have lost the war, so the whole economy will fall to the ground. And what happened? A panic sales in the London Stock Exchange happened. Everyone was ready to sell off the stocks because Napoleon might come next week and occupy London. And that was the time where the Rothschilds has cashed in. That means they have bought the stocks which have fallen to the ground virtually. And this fake news was then ultimately a couple of days later when all the stocks have changed the hands. It came to light, but it was too late. So a fantastic, very effective tactics. Come to the next. Now you can see two very, very famous and outstanding presidents in America. You see John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln, and they are up to date, are the two of the most popular and influential US presidents. Both, however, were assassinated under mysterious circumstances. We come to the next. John F. Kennedy was the only American president who dared to nationalize the US Federal Reserve Bank. John F. Kennedy was the president who wanted to have the US Federal Reserve Bank to be a central bank under the control of the United States government. When John F. Kennedy became president, the first thing what he did, he signed an executive order with a number 111110. That happened in June 1943, and for a period of a couple of months, the printing money of US dollars was effectively under the US government. But what happened to John F. Kennedy, everyone knows. Merely 6 months after signing this bill into law, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And up to now, the files are still classified. Some have been declassified, but the circumstances behind the death of John F. Kennedy is still not fully opened. Though they say that a single assassin with the name Lee Harvey Oswald, 450 meters high in a building, has shot the president. Obviously, he had shot him in the backside of his head, but they found also that someone else has shot him from the front. So the vice president, the then vice president, was Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson was the vice president, and when a president, an American president, dies, the vice president will be immediately appointed as the acting president. Lyndon B. Johnson's first act, before he has taken the oath as a president, was to nullify the executive order what John F. Kennedy had signed. To nullify the executive order 111110 in order to guarantee that the US Federal Reserve Bank falls back to the consortium of private banks. And only after he signed this bill into law, he was able to take the oath as an ex-president. Even Lincoln, they say so, historians, was shot because he had a disagreement with the international banking interest over the financing of the Civil War. And we come to the next. So now a little bit we play with figures here, and we see the Federal Reserve can give loans in trillions. Now you see, you have 1 trillion there, no? You see the zeros, the 12 zeros. The total United States total debt as at 2018 was 30 trillion US dollars. Now who's the beneficiary? From where all these funds have come and who has taken it? In fact, the US government needs money. The US Federal Reserve Bank provides the money, charges interest, and that is the way how the money flows, and in return, the US government gives bonds back to the Federal Reserve Bank. That's the way how it works. And there are enough unidentified recipients at undisclosed terms. The US Congress has no right to audit controls of the Fed, and this is all laid down in facts and in law on the Federal Reserve Act from 1913. So to close up and to say, the former chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank was a man called Alan Greenspan. And he was for I think for more than 10 years, 15 years, he was the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank. And when Alan Greenspan had a cold or a cough or any physical upset, the stock exchange went down. He was that powerful. He was that influential. And that is my last thing. And in an interview with a journalist, after Alan Greenspan had a couple of wine glasses, he was asked, now what is your power? How much power you have? And he was a little bit loose, and he told, we, the Federal Reserve Bank, we can do what we want. The government is not auditing us. They do not have the right to audit us. In fact, we can decide what we do, and no US president can ever interfere into our matters. So, to round up, thank you for listening. I gave you hopefully, this is the President Wilson who has enabled the Federal Reserve Foundation at a time, and basically this is the background referring to the song what we had here, the beautiful song "And the Dollars Fall." I hope I was able to give you a little backside information. Be happy, Sri Lanka Central Bank is not in the same league. They are controlled by your government, and hopefully the voters control the government. Thank you very much. Thank you.